Welcome to Fatherhood, where we uplift voices and redefine legacy by highlighting the strength, sacrifice, and stories of Black fathers shaping our communities every day. Today, we're sitting with fathers who lead both on and off the field. As coaches, they're mentors and role models who are shaping young men through discipline, accountability, and guidance. But beyond the game, they also carry the responsibility of being present and devoted fathers at home. Today's conversation explores the connection between coaching and fatherhood and the legacy being built every day. Joining us today are four incredible leaders here in Memphis. Coach Rodney Saulsberry.
Great seeing you.
Coach Jermaine Carter.
Thanks for having me.
Coach Faragi Phillips.
Thank you for having me.
And Coach Bryant Jones.
Thank you for having me.
Thank y'all for being here. Now, each of you have stepped into coaching with purpose, shaped by experience, and fatherhood has only deepened the way that you lead, mentor, and pour into the next generation. What I'd like to know is if there was a specific moment in your own lives where you came to the realization that you ain't just playing a game, right? But you're preparing yourself for the burden and the weight of leadership.
You want to tackle it first?
No, you got it.
It's, I guess early on, like I think growing up, I don't think I thought about coaching at all, but I think that life also taught me to coach. So it's one of those things that you look back in hindsight, you see some things that you did growing up that prepared you for the preparation and all the things that go into coaching. So probably all of us organically as players, you're not thinking about coaching because all of us played sports. So we weren't thinking about the coaching aspect. But when you look back at it, some things that were being taught to you, you saw how you gravitated to it, how you led other people during those times. Mm-hmm. So coaching actually is in your blood, but you may not recognize it at the time when you're just growing up.
I think for me, I always wanted to help people. I've always said that I wanted to be a police officer as a kid. But when I graduated from college, something happened in Langston University where my coaches poured into me, and I was like, you know what, there may be something I want to do. And so when I graduated spring, I was doing spring football at Langston University. So that's what started for me.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
For me, it was, let's say I was one of them hard-headed players.
Okay.
So it was just a little different. And then once I started to pay attention what my coaches was trying to tell me, I'm like, oh, maybe if I would have listened then, I'll be all right now.
Yeah.
So now I'm trying to do the same thing that they was trying to do for me. Put it in them.
Okay. I'm gonna come back to that. Faragi,
I think for me, hearing coaches, and I can vividly remember throughout my playing days, I was always tasked with being a leader, leader of a team, and it wasn't so much that I had the best ability. I just had that leadership quality and entity that coaches saw in me. Obviously when my playing days was over, I couldn't do the things that I wanted to do as a player. It was easy for me to transition from athlete to coach because I had that leadership entity in me that gravitated with people. And then in terms of what we do, it gravitated with young people. And you can kind of influence them to have some type of things about, what life is going to present and things of that nature. But for me, in a nutshell, I think I always had that leadership quality that could resonate with young people, even when I was, a teammate in my playing days.
Okay. Well, I appreciate y'all sharing that, and something you said, Brian, and you too, Jermaine,
okay,
that got me thinking. So, who was the first person that really poured into you, and how does the memory of that individual shape the way that you may engage with a player on your team that's having a hard time or struggling with a certain thing?
For me, the first person that ever taught me anything about football or anything was Curtis Gibbons Sr.
Okay.
So I moved to Memphis. Yes, the Dynamites. So we know that. I moved to Memphis. I was just a kid that just used to walk around. I didn't know nothing about football. I seen this team playing at Whitehaven High School. I lived across the street. So I was like, can I play? But I didn't know how actually mean this guy was when it came to winning and losing and discipline. So once I got that level of it, it just started to sink in. He taught me the basics, and they went from there. And then I ran into this guy. I didn't play junior high football. They got me off the track.
Yes.
Okay.
They came and got me off the track. So once I found out, oh, I could do this, it went from there. It wasn't easy, I ain't gonna say that. It wasn't easy because I still had a little rough to me.
Yeah.
So after that, it wasn't no problem. And then I started to learn a little more as I moved to Texas. So from then on, I'm like, well, maybe I can do something else with this. And that's where it went. And then I started to see him win state championships.
Yeah.
I wanted to do that.
You want to do that.
Right.
Yeah, I wanted to do that.
That's good.
I think for me, it was a lot of coaches, honestly. I just never want that one person. I played for Riverside Raiders. We actually played against them. They used to beat us like crazy every year. I used to hate that tick, 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 boom. I used to hate it. But no, it was a lot of coaches. I actually, Dad was there, was not there. So I gravitate to a lot of, men and I guess male figures, and so I guess the first person to introduce himself to my mom was Winston Ford. Played at Carver, won a state in 1979. Yeah, he did. Edgar Williams, they call him Juice. He was one of the coaches. Coach Lucky. And at Carver, I went to Carver High School.
Okay.
Coach Joe Harris was that real mentor, hard-nosed guy. Can't forget Stephen Bratchett. Can't never forget Coach Bratchett. So they just poured into me as a young kid, and I listened to every last one of them guys. Maybe because the father wasn't there. Mm-hmm. He was there, but he wasn't there. I ain't gonna say no down with Pops, but he was there, but he wasn't there. So those guys were the ones who I just poured into and just listened, like, okay. But yeah, so it was a lot. It was a magnitude of them, actually, not just one person.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What about y'all?
I think for me, it was, I can remember, man, I was in second grade, really young, but I was always able to kind of, have some ability. And I thought, even at that age, my basketball ability, playing Little League basketball would kind of get me through some crevices in life that, my otherwise character wouldn't do. And this lady by the name of Martha Morgan, man, she was a white lady, my second grade teacher. And immediately she embraced me and showed me the value of what a person is outside of basketball, outside of sports, period. And throughout my time as an elementary student, all through middle school and high school, she kept in touch with me all throughout my, my prep career. And it was until like recently, 3 or 4 years ago, I tweeted on something about, how much of an influence she had on me. And she reacted to it and it got back to me and it really blessed me. But man, early on, it was a lady by the name of Martha Morgan. As a second grade teacher, man. She looked beyond all of my flaws and everything that I thought I had going on with myself. She could see through that, and that really affected me throughout my whole elementary, middle school, and high school career.
I love that.
Yep.
That's cool.
Yeah, for me, obviously, again, having your dad around is so important. And I was blessed that I had a father that was there. My father was a pastor when I was young. He became a pastor when I was young. I think I was about 6th grade. But my parents and our family was so close. We had a very close family. So we were always surrounded. And I believe it's a firm thing that the environment that you put your kids in means something. Yes. And the people that your kids are around means something. And I know that that's not always normal for a lot of our environments in our neighborhoods where everybody's communal.
Yeah.
But I was blessed that we were in a very communal society where everybody looked out for everybody. So I had a lot of coaches always growing up, and our father was very intentional about who he allowed us to be around.
Yeah.
So it helped. And now again, we knucklehead kids, we're gonna find our way to be around other people as well. But they put us in environments, and obviously getting into high school and having Stan Collins as a head coach, it really helped us develop and help push us because he really believed in pouring into us. And I was lucky enough to hear work with my sister. He had taught my sisters along the way, so I came up along a whole family tree of going through Whitehaven and growing up in that environment. So it was very beneficial. So Stan Collins was the one to help pour into us and use that model and stand on his shoulders and continue to build on it.
Fantastic. Well, I appreciate that, fellas. And I'm gonna pivot a little bit. We know that balancing the responsibility rather of leading a family as well as leading a team really requires both a high level of attention as well as intention, because they both demand your energy, they demand your presence and your heart, right? So when you're in a situation where you've given 100% of your energy to your team, how do you make sure that your family doesn't get the leftovers of who you are when you walk through those doors at home?
Honestly, I would say it was kind of hard for me, but I didn't realize it was hard. I was working at Memphis Academy of Health Science. I was the head football coach of the middle school, but I also was the athletic director. And I would always call my wife, be like, "Hey, can you come get my son?" She'll just come get him. Hey, I got to do that. I got to stay late. Can you do this? And not realize it was hard. Coming home 8, 9 o'clock at night. Then also been the track coach as well. So everybody knows it's all day with track.
All day.
One day, me and my wife got into it. We actually had an argument, and she was like, "I be with him more than you," and I'm like, "No, you don't." And she was like, "Jermaine, think about it. Who was coming to get him when you was?" I was like, I never realized.
Can't say much.
I couldn't. What can you say? Mm-hmm. Because it was so true, but I didn't realize it was hard like that. I really didn't until we had that conversation, and I thanked her so much for sacrificing me going after my dreams and her taking care of the babies, Yeah. But I didn't realize it, honestly. So
every team that I think I've been able to, be a leader as a coach, my wife has probably been the most valuable person on that team because of the sacrifices that it takes from them. Oftentimes we're spending many, many hours away from home, but it's safe in knowing that home is okay because of the sacrifices that she understands that I'm trying to put into what I'm trying to do to be the best possible coach and team that we can have. And so it was easy for me, but at times when I had some slippage, my assistant coach, who's my wife, she would definitely give me some reminder. Hey, you leave Coach Faragi at the gym or at school. You don't bring him in here. Yeah. But I think more than anything, man, just her sacrifice and understanding that what I'm doing is important to me, and it helps me become the person that I'm trying to be at the school, and for our team, but also understanding that when I come through that door, I am a husband and I am a father. So it's kind of easy for me to transition of, bringing that coach environment home as opposed to me bringing, that coach in the house and thinking that's going to have some value, which it never did.
Yeah. But I forgot to mention also, she was supportive. She was. But,
that's a blessing.
Yeah, she was. I got to get her credit.
And I was going to say is that, again, Faragi and I, we've known each other for a very long time. Yeah. And when you're young, you don't know. Mm-hmm. You don't know any better. And sometimes it's not going to work. And you need to understand that as a man, you gotta see beyond that. And then, so early on, didn't know how to balance that. Didn't know how to manage that. Right. So not knowing, and it leads to fracture. So I wish I knew then what I know now. But now it's a blessing. So when you do make mistakes and things may not work out, don't give up on that. Because having that family household is extremely important. So we had to learn that. We had to take a couple of lumps, but then get back on that horse. Because as men, a lot of times we think we can do this thing by ourselves, and it is not. It is not the way to go about it. So having that person, that helpmate with you, is so important. Yeah. So we got to make sure we learn and understand that. So I had to take some more notes from Faragi, and now we figured that thing out. So the second time around, you really realize the importance of having that balance of home life and with what you're doing as a coach.
Yeah. I love it. I think for me, I just made it I made it fit me.
Okay.
So I made the team part of my family. That way, my daughter got brothers now. So my wife can't fuss at me. If the kids are always at my house or around my house, they got responsibilities too. She gonna tell you what to do just like me, and you gotta do it. So you just gotta deal with it. Now she got sons that can do this and do that.
Wow.
So
you blended both.
Yeah, I just made it work for me. That way I don't get fussed at.
Yeah. I like that. That's smart. And speaking of learning, right? Growing up in a black household, there's this saying that goes, "Do as I say, not as I do," right? I'm sure we're all familiar with that, right? Sure. So I'm curious, has there been a specific lesson that you've taught on the court or on the field that you've had trouble applying to your children or your own personal life?
I think for me, man, when I first started coaching, to kind of piggyback off of what Coach Saulsberry was saying, when I first started coaching, man, I would use every word and every noun and verb under the sun, right? And I would like to think that was because of my experience growing up. My mom, was a cusser and still is a very good cusser. And my dad, bless his heart, he's going to be with the Lord. But man, I had a very good experience at home of what words to use. And so obviously that experience and that upbringing, kind of poured into my earlier years as a coach. I would kind of use things that I felt my mom and father would use with me and say some things to me, and I could really catch myself because the kids that I was dealing with, I think all of us can speak for this in terms of the inner city kids that we're dealing with. They hear enough of that at home already, right? And so, man, when I was able to give my life to Christ and kind of look at some things and be transparent with myself, I understood that there's a different route I want to take with this young person or with this team and with these people, because I know the F-bombs and all of these curse words that I'm wanting to kind of shell out to them, they've already heard it. And at some point in time, it becomes numb to them. So my direction with them was a little bit different in terms of how I wanted to approach them. But I got that intention because of the fact that it was what I got from home, and I didn't want to be the same person that I knew I couldn't be to relate to these young people that I knew I was getting at home earlier in my career.
Oh, definitely. That's one of the things, the language that we use. Brian, I tell you, all those guys will tell you is that, man, coach, you different. There's like, hey, it's not, so when you grow and mature, again, that relationship with Christ and learning that, learning how to be demanding when not being demeaning. Because again, we grew up with coaches that, ain't no telling what would be said, so learning that, okay, it's another way to deliver that message. So as a teacher, that pedagogy of knowing that, hey, it's different ways to deliver the message without berating anyone and doing those things. So that was a learned process. I can listen to Maurice now. Maurice Harris, one of my best friends, he just say, how we cursing, telling them not to curse. Like we cursing saying don't curse. That ain't make sense. So we had to grow and develop through that process of knowing that there's a way to do it. So that's one that I know for most coaches, that's going to be the thing that they had to learn, practicing what you preach and with the language that you use.
I got a lot of that as a player. Hey, man, watch your mouth, man. All right, coach. So it's like you say, the language barrier between then and now is not the same. Like kids curse freely in front of their parents now. When we hid that.
And adults.
Like we hid, if we got caught cursing, we like, man, hey, that's somebody's grandma right there. Pay attention what you're saying. But now, it's just, so now I try to tell them, hey, respect your elders. Watch what you say. You see that lady right there? Act like that's your mother. So it's I say it's more of a teaching level now instead of what we was getting the elbow and the shut up, watch your mouth. So it's a little different now. Kids today don't understand how tough they are not. Like you're really not tough. If you see what we went through then as far as the discipline we got in that school from a coach, you might get a forearm from Coach Collins or something. You might get a paddling. None of that's going on in school no more. So now you have the kids that talk bad to teachers, and then their mothers and fathers come up there and back it up. That's not how it was for us. If the teacher says you did it, you did it. Now you're going home and you're gonna get a whooping again. So it's you just gotta roll with the times. But at the same time, I'm still trying to teach them that ain't how it works.
And speaking of discipline, right? We know that coaching is more than wins and losses. Right. What you're doing is you're using sports as a foundation to really build young men, prepare them for life, teaching them discipline, teaching them respect, right? So how does that look like for you personally? Are you dealing with so many different personalities on a team, so many different backgrounds? Is there a standard or static approach to how you go about developing young men outside of skills for that particular sport, for football or basketball, right? Just skills that they need in life. Is there a standard process that you have, or
I think
Let's talk about that.
No players are. You can't handle each player the same way.
No doubt.
That's first. So if I can talk bad to you and get you to understand that you out of line, I probably can't talk to him like that. I might pull him to the side. He might be a little bit more sensitive. So you have to pay attention to the personnel you're dealing with as far as your discipline. Like, some players are quick if they get talked bad to. I don't know what that's like. My mother wasn't gonna let me quit.
Yes.
Right.
So kids have a choice nowadays. As a child, I never had a choice in nothing I did. I don't care if my coach dragged me home by my collar. I still never had a choice. Okay, you going back to practice tomorrow. So nowadays, well, Ma, I want to transfer. There you go. Now you're gonna go to this school and act up. I want to transfer again. You're gonna go to this school and act up. So it's all about how you handle its personalities.
Yeah.
Everybody's personality can't be handled the same.
I think for me, in my approach, I used to, everything was always about experience. We didn't do it a lot at Carver, but I learned a lot when I went to college, okay? So when I became a head football coach, I used to, I told myself I was going to serve everybody. Everybody's a sir. And he'll tell you right now, when the kids talk to me and they say, I say Honda. I don't drive a Honda, I drive a Nissan. You hung your homie. You yell your friend. And he'll tell you I do it all the time. So I'm a sir like you a sir, and you're a man like, and I do it to the kids. But for me, I used to have the boys dress up on game day. Of course, a lot of people do that, but I really took it serious because in college, it's a business trip. We put our suit on and we get on the bus and we going to Texas to play, Texas College or anybody like that. So I took that with me when I became a coach, and I still do it to this day. And what I did, I used to make them come to me. Oh, okay, yep, okay. You look okay. Hey, come here. Hey, I'm gonna push you up a little bit. Hey, okay.
I do understand that appearance. Like, they wouldn't let us wear braids or dreads.
Yeah.
You had to have a haircut.
Yeah. So
Whitehaven was different then. You had to have a haircut.
yeah.
So I understand that.
Right. So I just took it from my experience from college, man. It really was college, and in high school we ate KFC for pregame meal, and I thought it was okay. But I had a coach by Coach Jeff Sawyer. We had baked chicken, salad, lay down for a game. So I took that with me. Went to the cafeteria later. Hey, I need some baked potatoes. I need this. I need that. I need fried chicken, baked chicken. Sit down, lay down. So I just took it with me, and like I said, it's off experience, man. Just everything I've experienced, honestly.
Yeah. And I think at the end of the day, right, your true impact isn't just measured in wins, right? Not just with your record, right? But it's measured in how the mark you leave on these young men that you're developing, how you help shape their lives, right? And the legacy that you leave in those players as well as your families. So 20, 30 years from now, when your name comes up in the conversation between a former player and your kid, what's the one word you hope both of them use to describe who you are and what you meant?
Oh, first and foremost, that I love them. Again, I'm a firm believer that winning is a byproduct of doing things the right way.
Yep.
If you do things right, you live right, you treat people right, all those things, winning becomes because of that. But I make a point for all my guys. Like, I know every kid's name. I'm gonna know everybody, even if you can't play dead, or you can play, or you're the all-star on the team. To everybody, because everyone's important. Every kid has a purpose. Every kid has something they can contribute, no matter what it is. So we make a point in there, Whitehaven, they know that before you leave there, we're gonna have a real heart-to-heart conversation, and you're gonna know that from man to man, I love you. And it's like, so break down those barriers of knowing that as men, we have to make sure to know that we care about each other, and I care about you beyond football. So I hope that's one thing that they will say, Coach cared about me. Even if I didn't play, Coach cared about me. Coach knew who I was, even when I didn't know myself. So that's one of the things I really want to gravitate, want to resonate with those young men.
Gotcha. I think for me, that's good, Coach. I think for me, man, it was, I probably more so than anything, just selfless. Okay. I think all of us understand that we've taken on some things through our playing career, obviously in our coaching career, that we can all kind of tie into how we do things. But for me, man, I would always go back to the point where when I came through high school, I don't remember having the Lord in my life when I was a high school player. It wasn't important to me, right? The only thing that was important to me was trying to be the best basketball player I could be, right? And then when I got to college, the old guy played for Lafayette Scribbling, old mean black joke. I'm talking about, man, mean, but he loved us so much. He loved us enough to take us to church on a Sunday after a big game Saturday night. Or when we were out of town on a visiting trip, we would also find somewhere to go to church and fellowship with the Lord. And so that never left me, because oftentimes I would be sitting in church hungover from the night before, whether we won or lost, but he would make a point to have all of us get on the bus and go to church. And so when I began to coach and understand that we have to coach the holistic part of this young person, it came back to me to where, I got to give a foundation of the Lord with these young people. I got to be a seed sower in that regard, because it never left me. And it was something that I always think about, even to this day, as to why he would do that. And I could probably say it was done to him. And so I think all of us aspire at the end of the day to hear, well done, my good and faithful servant, because we're going to either hear that or we're going to hear the opposite. Right. And I just use that as motivation, because when that day comes for me, that is definitely what I want to hear. And that's what he's going to hold me accountable to.
Well, I appreciate that, fellas, and I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. Today's conversation reminds us that leadership isn't just about what happens on the court or on the field. It's about the example set every single day. Through discipline, guidance, and consistency, fathers like these are shaping not just athletes, they're shaping the leaders of tomorrow. That's right. Because at its core, fatherhood is about showing up, pouring in, and leaving a lasting impact that extends far beyond the game. Thank you again to our esteemed panelists for your insights today. I'm Nate Ollie, and this has been Fatherhood, where we uplift voices and redefine legacy. Thank you for joining us.